announcements here before we start. One is that, as you know, there are restrooms right here, but the library is actually open until 8 o'clock, so if you would prefer to go upstairs, you can do that. We have some water and refreshments hiding behind the sign right here, so if you want to grab something later on, it's right there. Also want to let you know that in order to put on an event like this, there are a lot of people that, work to put on an event like this. You can see on the screen all of the organizations that were involved in putting this on. Peninsula Clean Energy is the funder of the event through a grant to 350 Silicon Valley. And then our local group is the Pacifica Climate Committee, of which I'm a member. So this is actually one of several of these events that are going on throughout the county. And we have the lights off so that people in the audience here can see the screen better, because otherwise it gets a little bit washed out. So my name is Mark. There we go. Okay, so Joseph, which do I have to do to?
Oh, I think it was clicked out. So now if you just use the arrow,
Okay.
it'll be fine.
Okay, we're good. All right, so my name is Margot Myman, and I just wanted to let you know how tonight's agenda is going to go. I'm going to give you an introduction, talk about why we're here, and introduce you to a website called Switches On. And I also am going to tell you a little bit about our own water heater, which we replaced 2 years ago. Then we've got Mary Ellen Carroll, who's going to talk about her home electrification journey. She is almost all electric in her house. We've got Kirsten Andrews-Schwind here, who's from Peninsula Clean Energy. They've got a lot of financial incentives and programs to help people go electric. And then finally, we've got Joseph Chen here from Home Energy Analytics. There is a feeling out there that if I go electric, I need to upgrade my panel. If I go electric, I have to have solar panels. Neither one is necessarily the case. So he's going to get into some of the nitty-gritty about the details about home electrification. The last hour of the program, we're just going to open up the room. Whoever is here. We've got 3 different vendor partners who are here. They'll introduce themselves. And we've got various organizations that you can, who you can talk to. We've got lots of resources in the back of the room. So that's how it's going to happen. If we have anybody outside, just come on in. We've got lots of seats here, so please come on in. All right, let's dive in. What does it mean to electrify? What it means to electrify is that if you have anything in your house, large or small, that is currently burning natural gas or methane gas, and you get rid of it and instead replace it with something with a plug in it, or maybe a battery, that is electrification, that's it. So sometimes you hear home electrification, you may hear building decarbonization, that's what we're talking about. Let's, decarbonize, let's electrify. Specifically, the 4 that we're gonna be talking about tonight are the following: your furnace, your water heater, your stove, your clothes dryer. We're particularly gonna be talking about the top 2 because those are the heavy hitter greenhouse gas emitters in our house. The third one, the kitchen stove, is more related to home health, air quality in your home. We'll talk about that a little bit as well, but these are the big 4 for electrification. Why are we doing this now? It's because later is too late. The IPCC says that really within 5 years, if we are doing the same rate of greenhouse gas emitting that we are now, we're on track for climate change catastrophe that will be irreversible. So we really, really need to do something now. This was a headline from the Washington Post just on Tuesday. I don't know if you heard this. Sunday, 4 days ago, was the hottest day on record across the globe. This was after 13 straight consecutive months of temperatures that have been unprecedented. So climate change is happening, global warming is happening. So we need to do something. And I don't know about you, but this is why I'm doing something. Doing something for my kids, Maybe if they have kids for the future generation, I do think that it's our responsibility to leave a planet that is not just livable, but is pleasant. And if we don't do something now, it will not be, may not be, it will not be livable. So we've got to do something. As a consumer or an individual person, you may think, well, there's so much going on. I really can't do anything. My little old self, in my little house. But really, and yes, there are lots of sectors. As an individual, what can I do about the industrial sector? What can I do about, electricity imports? As an individual, maybe not. But I could do something here in residential. I can do something in my house. I also could do something by maybe getting a hybrid or an electric vehicle, but that's a whole other topic, right? We're not going to talk about that too much tonight. But I can do something in my house. So let's talk about it. Just to let you know, in terms of methane. So methane is the main problem with natural gas. In the production of methane and the delivery of natural gas to your home, there's leaks throughout the whole infrastructure. So you start with the drilling and fracturing, all of that infrastructure that needs to take place before it gets to your house. EPA estimates that there's natural gas leakage of up to 1.5%, which is kind of a lot. And the problem with that is that methane, unburned methane, when it's in the atmosphere, it is 80 times more potent in terms of a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide stays in the atmosphere for a really long time, hundreds of years. Methane, not as much, but in the first 20 years, it's really, really potent, which is why we need to stop using it as much as we can now rather than later. Inside our house, the problem with methane gas, natural gas, methane is not the only gas that's being emitted. But another one that's emitted throughout your house is nitrogen dioxide, which is harmful for us to be breathing. If we could see the natural gas in our house, it might look something like this. And so if you could see it all the time, you might be horrified. Of course we can't see it, it's invisible. But I just want to share with you a few things that you may not be aware of. Apparently, in the Bay Area, our gas appliances in our homes actually contribute more to the smog that we have in the Bay Area than our vehicles on the road do. That was amazing when I heard that. Another thing, Lawrence Berkeley Labs has determined that about a third of the population in the state of California are living in homes where the levels of nitrogen dioxide are actually inside the home are actually illegal if they were outdoors. So this is crazy. The indoor air pollution that is happening because of these gas appliances. Another thing you might have heard about with all of the hoopla around induction stoves a few years ago was the effect on children. There's been a lot of studies lately about the effect of gas stoves in children. And so it turns out that 42% of kids living in homes where there are gas homes are more likely to suffer from symptoms of asthma. And so I have a friend a couple of years ago. She did not get an induction stove, which we can talk about later. But a few years ago, she did replace her gas stove with just a plain resistance electric stove because of her children who are now 5 years old and 8 years old. She's like, I'm getting that gas appliance out of my kitchen. So there you go. Having methane gas, natural gas appliances in our homes, that's not good for our health. And for those of us who still do have a gas stove, guilty. I hope that you're opening your windows. I hope that you've got system. I do plan on replacing my stove this year, 2024. So, as we've mentioned, electrification is good for the planet. It is also good for our health, but what you may not know, it's good for our wallets. And that's what I want to talk about for just a little bit here. I want to introduce you to a site called theswitcheson.org. And the reason I want to mention it is besides just a load of resources that you can find on there, you can find out what the current financial incentives are. There are a lot of organizations, federal, state, local, that essentially want to give you money to electrify, because typically an electric appliance is more expensive than a gas appliance, and so they want to make it easier for you. By the way, we have a lot of information in the back of the room about Switches On. So I wanted to show you what you can do with Switches On. You can go to this drop-down menu. It says Find Incentives. And you can, this is what it's going to look like. There's going to be a place for you to put your zip code in, and a place for you to indicate the whatever appliance you're interested in finding out about. And so I'm going to talk about water heaters here for a second. So if you put in 94044 and water heaters, you can see that there's 7 different incentives available for people who live here in Pacifica. And I just want to take a look at a couple of them really briefly. First 2, Peninsula Clean Energy, $2,000 rebate right off the bat. There's a great loan program. Kirsten's going to talk about these programs a little bit later. There's a state program. There's a federal program. There's lots of money there for you to replace your water heater with a heat pump water heater. And so just when you're looking, when you're starting your research on replacing whatever appliance you want to, the Switches On is a great place to go. I want to take a second and talk about water heaters. Now, this is a picture of our old water heater. Your tank is the greatest place for stickers, by the way. Don't leave the stickers there. Bring them home, put them on your water heater. Our water heater was leaking. Luckily, it was a slow leak. Usually when water heaters break down, you know, they start leaking and it becomes an emergency. Ours was a very slow leak. Here's the yucky stuff that was coming out of the bottom of it. It allowed us some time to actually do some research. So the thing about water heaters is that a gas water heater needs to be replaced every 10 years or so. So someone in this room likely has a water heater that needs to be replaced pretty soon. Gas or heat pump water heaters are going to last a little bit longer, 10 to 15 years. Now, super quickly, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but the thing about a heat pump is that a heat pump, instead of creating heat through combustion, it moves heat from place to place. So for example, outside air into your home through a refrigerant. Your refrigerator uses a heat pump technology. So your refrigerator is taking the warm air from inside your refrigerator, seems weird to think about, and it's bringing it outside. And so if you were to stand next to your refrigerator and have your feet underneath or maybe in the back, you'll feel some heat coming out. And that's because your refrigerator is taking the warm air from inside your refrigerator and pumping it out. It's a heat pump technology. And so what I want to do is just spend a second talking about upfront costs for a heat pump water heater, because there are people that think it's too expensive for me, I can't do it. Not with the incentives that are available for you. So right now, just typically, gas water heater, including installation, $2,000. Your water heater breaks, you call the plumber, you get it installed, $2,000, done. $2,000 out the door. You've got your water heater fixed, but you haven't done anything, you haven't done anything for the planet. Let's talk about a scenario here where you do take advantage of some of those incentives. Now, this is for a high household income, which in San Mateo County would be about $300,000 for a family of 4. So notice the price here. That's pretty expensive. The cost of the unit plus installation, about $7,000. So ouch, that's kind of expensive. But after all of these incentives, local, federal, you're down to under $3,000. So yeah, $870 more than your $2,000, right? But Think about it. These are super high efficiency water heaters. Over the life of the water heater, you're going to come out ahead. You're going to get that $870 back for sure. By the way, the water heater that you see here is it's the most available kind of water heater. A lot of people call them hybrid water heaters. The heat pump unit is right on the top of it, sits right on top of it, and then the water tank is below. High efficiency water heaters, up to 3 times more efficient as a regular gas water heater. So it's really good. Let's talk about moderate to low income families, though. There's even more available. Moderate to low income households can take advantage of federal rebates, which are going to be available hopefully by the end of this year. They haven't come online yet, but it's another $1,750. Once that happens, you're down to underneath that $2,000. It's cheaper for you to get a heat pump water heater than a gas water heater. So to me, that's a no-brainer. Why not do it, right? Good for the environment, good for your home, good for your wallet. I just want to tell you real quickly about our water heater experience. We replaced ours 2 years ago. This is actually kind of an atypical system. We have the water tank here in what we call our workshop, and then the heat pump unit is actually outside. It's a separate unit, so we call it a split system. If I were to replace it these days, right now, with the current costs and incentives and everything, it would be expensive. The out-of-pocket cost would be about $4,000, so about twice as much as your $2,000 gas water heater. However, we have seen in the summer months when we're not running our heat, although we are in Pacifica, so of course that does happen occasionally. Our gas usage over the summers has gone down 80%. 80%. And the gas is what we wanted to get rid of. So we think this is a big win. We're really happy about that. If we look at the whole entire year, January through December, what we also have noticed that our overall energy use has gone down by 10%. Now I don't know, that might not seem like that much, but when you think about remember a couple slides earlier, the water heater accounts for about 20% of your home's energy use. So our entire energy use has gone down by 10%. We think that's a big win. And then when you start scaling that out, you think about 100 homes, reducing their energy usage, 1,000 homes, 2,000 homes, right? And not just reducing energy usage, but reducing that gas usage. It can be a big deal, can add up, which is why we're here tonight, to let you guys know about this. That is my introduction to our program here tonight. I'm going to hand it over to Mary Ellen to talk about her home electrification journey. And by the way, it's a little right arrow there.
Wow, that's a tough act to follow, Margot. Margot's a good friend of mine. Thank you for having me. So, yes, I kind of did the full Monty with some exceptions. So, I live in a house here in Sharp Park, built in 1965, and the furnace was really at end of life, and I knew that I needed to make a change. Also, I did get solar, and I know, solar is not necessary for this, but I actually started by getting solar, and there's 2 reasons for that. One is, it's hard to talk about this without talking about what I do in my day job. So I am the director for the Department of Emergency Management in San Francisco. So I run all of emergency services for the city. I'm involved at the national level with FEMA, and I basically live disaster 24/7. And me and my staff and in the city, we have seen, I was appointed by the mayor 6 years ago, almost to the day, actually. And my job since then has completely changed, really. And there's obviously COVID had a big part of that. But climate change and extreme weather, flooding, storms, heat, air quality is like 50% of what we do. Interestingly, I was on another panel today in San Francisco about climate change, talking about things. So, I wanted to be able to have backup power, actually, primarily, because I'm a disaster dork, and that was very important to me. I also, on a much, less, benevolent or whatever reason, I wanted to get a hot tub. And I'm from Philly. Who's the Philly guy here? Is Deirdre's dad here? Hello.
Connection going on. Deirdre was telling me.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. I thought and I've been here for over 30 years. I thought you just got a hot tub when you moved to California. Anyway, so I decided to. I looked into it and really vaguely sort of was like, okay, I think probably Margot, you turned me, you talk about this stuff all the time on our hikes. So I was like, oh, okay. So I looked into it, and it was like, it really, you're going to be disappointed if you want somebody who's going to provide you with a lot of analytics about what's going on with my house, although now I'm going to go back because I just work all the time and I don't have time to look at it, nor did I do a whole lot of planning when I went into this. But I did see, I applied. I went online and I kind of put some numbers in for all the things, and I was like, well, I think I can get like a third of the cost for this thing back. It was expensive to do the whole system, no doubt, and I used, basically my little savings that I had to do this, but I really feel. So the practical reason was, I needed to do something. I wanted to do the right thing, and our kids grew up together, and we are in the climate apocalypse now. Like, if you didn't know, it's happening. It is here. It's not like we're planning for stuff, but like we have to do this now. And so I felt like it was important if I had the means to be able to do it. So I just, did the whole thing. So I'll just show you some pictures. So I did a heat pump for obviously for the HVAC and the beautiful water heater here. It was relatively easy, as easy as it is to write a check, basically, to do it. But I did get, like I said, considerable rebates back. And when I did my taxes this year, I also got, I think I had like $3,000 back from all the things I did, which I wasn't actually anticipating. So that was cool. You can see I'm a surfer, so you can see this is just my side yard. That's where the main unit is, and don't ask me how any of it works, but it works. And so I think that the other things about this is sadly that this provides for me heating and cooling. And you think in Pacifica, and even to this day, like how many days a year do we really need air conditioning, especially in Sharp Park? But we are going to need it, And I'll tell you, if it's over 80 degrees, my little box of a house turns into an oven. Amy and I have the same house, actually. We're living next to each other almost. But anyway, so I think for, all of these things drove me. So, I wanted to be more prepared and be able to have power when the power goes out. I work, unfortunately, very closely with PG&E on the regular around, how they respond and what the risks are to all of us for power outages. And, not so much in San Francisco, but in San Mateo County, we definitely need to be prepared for future PSPS and these threats that are going to turn our power off, and storms that are going to come in, all of these things. So I just, I came at this from I would say, 75% from my professional perspective on what I live and breathe every day, and my job and the job of the people that work for me to protect the people of San Francisco. And our work is consequence management. We're not in the planning. We're not in a whole lot of mitigation. A little bit more, we're getting involved in that, but there's a lot of disconnect between, I think, what governments, even NGOs, what we're all, even communities are trying to do big picture versus, you know, the consequence that we're actually experiencing. And that was what I was talking about on this. You know, I think we can use the bad news, unfortunately, to leverage awareness and hopefully action. So that's really what drove me. And I will also say, just like I feel like this is a confessional here, I do still have a gas dryer, and it works, so I'm like, you know, I got to get rid of it, I know, but I just spent a hell of a lot of money on this thing. I'm a single woman, and I have to pick and choose. And my stove, I think, is going to be the hardest thing for me because I love to cook, and I really prefer gas cooking. But those are the two things. And once I do those two things, I'll be totally electric. And then we can talk about the car thing next, because I don't have an electric car either. But, you know, the challenge for all of us, I think, I guess I'm a person at this point that I had the means to do this, and I did it, but I also am so driven by what I know about, you know, after Paradise, the fire in Paradise happened, I was up there 3 days later walking through, like, you know, we've opened shelters for people who are fire victims, and, you know, I have spent many days at work responding to fires, trying to explain what happened September 2020 when the sun didn't come out and the sky turned orange. Like, this is my everyday life. So it translated, obviously, to me that if I had a chance to do a little part in trying to, like, make a difference with this, then I have to do it. It often feels to me like it's just symbolic, because, like, one person, what is one person's action? But it is the collective action of all of us. And so, you know, I'd love to hear more when you talk about the programs to help people that maybe it's a much more of a struggle. You know, like, how do people who are living on limited income, you know, maybe own their home but are retired, and, you know, everything is a stretch. So I think it's great, the programs that you have. And certainly I wouldn't have done it if I didn't have these incentives, because I couldn't really have afforded it. Yeah, so it's, you know, I'm very grateful for that. And yeah, you know, it's like the least sexy thing in my house. You know, it's not my new, I didn't remodel my kitchen. I did this. And, you know, I think those are the things that you have to, you know, those are the choices we make. And so I really appreciate you. You know, at first I was like, what? Why do you want me to talk about my utilities? You know, but now I kind of understand, because you know, if we can talk to people and kind of spread that word a little bit more, I think it will be very helpful. But it's hard. And I myself, you know, I'm like struggling with the stove thing, because, you know, it brings me joy. But I know apparently induction's awesome. I just need to look at it. But yeah, that's sort of my story. I don't know if anybody has any questions about it, but okay. All right, there we go. Yeah.
Another tough act to follow. And Mariella, thank you so much for keeping the people of San Francisco safe, and for that important work you do. And thank you both for greening your house and going electric. I'm Kirsten Andrews Schwind.
She hit the button. Oh, I may have turned it on.
All right. Now are we on? Now we're on. Yay. Okay, great. I'm Kirsten Andrews Schwind. I'm the Associate Director of Community Relations and Climate Equity at Peninsula Clean Energy, and I am here to tell you about how to get money. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Right arrow. Okay, great. So y'all have heard the name Peninsula Clean Energy a couple of times, and the good news is that here in San Mateo County, we are real climate leaders. So we know that that climate change is bad news, and this is a community that is stepping up. And one way that this community is stepping up is that we as a county, have taken over the purchasing of our electricity from PG&E in order to determine what is in the energy mix and to make it as green as possible to fight climate change. And that was a unanimous vote of every single city council member in every city in San Mateo County in 2016, or at least all the ones that came to that council meeting. But unanimous vote in Pacifica also. So yeah, so that is what formed Peninsula Clean Energy, and our vision is a sustainable world with clean energy for everyone. Yeah, so we are a local public agency. We are what's known as a joint powers authority. It's a collaborative of the cities in San Mateo County, but kind of similar to the library system. We're like the library for electricity. And we serve the San Mateo County and, interestingly, the city of Los Banos in Merced County as well. That's because we have a big solar array out there. And how it works, as I mentioned, we have taken over what's known as electricity generation, the making the electricity from PG&E. And we took over that part because that's where you fight climate change. Maintaining the wires, very necessary, but that's not necessarily where you fight climate change. It really isn't what is in your energy mix. That's the part we want to have control over. And so we took that over, and now you are getting all clean energy through Peninsula Clean Energy, and you're getting it at a discount as well. So then your electricity still comes to you through PG&E's wires. They own the wires. And PG&E does the billing as well. So you still get one bill from PG&E. You don't have to pay two bills. It's nice and convenient. PG&E just takes the money that you pay for our services and sends it to us. And our electricity generation services are generally priced 5% less than what you would have paid PG&E. So it is clean and it is less expensive. And that adds up. Pacifica customers have saved almost $4 million on your PG&E bills since we launched in 2016. So that is money that stays here, so yay for us. And more importantly, we've reduced emissions from greenhouse gas emissions from the electricity sector by 97% since 2016. Yeah. I was looking, and it's not just us in San Mateo County. We have 25 sister agencies across the state, serving just about every coastal county in California except for Del Norte. Between 2011 and 2019, our public agencies bought twice as much renewable energy as the state required us to do so. So we are going farther and faster on fighting climate change at the local level. So then, what do you do with all this fabulous clean energy? Well, you get off gas. And so, as we talked about, gas, like burning, is what causes is the biggest contributor to climate change. But burning is also a huge contributor to asthma. It's a huge contributor to so many health problems. And so when we can get off of gas and switch over to using electricity, clean electricity for all our energy uses, it's better for the climate, and it's better for you, and it's better for the planet. And so we are incentivizing folks to do this through water heater rebates, $2,000 rebate on the water heater. Also for HVAC, heating, cooling, air conditioning. Basically, you're replacing your furnace in Pacifica, $2,500. And once you've added up all the rebates you're eligible for, and you still have expenses on your project, you can finance it at 0% interest. Yes, 0% interest. Up to $10,000 with no credit check. All we look at is, you fill out a super simple form on our website. We just look to see, are you up to date on paying your PG&E bill for the last couple of months? If so, we say you're credit worthy, and you can finance whatever is left on your project and just pay it back on your PG&E bill at 0% interest. That's awesome.
Totally did.
Yeah, fabulous, fabulous. And how'd that work out for you?
It's been great.
Wonderful, wonderful. That's great. Okay. And then if you qualify for income qualified like discounts on your energy bill called Care and Fair, additional $1,000 rebate. And if you need to upgrade your electrical panel, additional $1,000 rebate there too. And again, the best place to find incentives is the switcheson.org website. They also have a great contractor tool to find a contractor. My water heater died a couple months ago. And so I went on the Switches On just to see, let's see how this tool works. I put in my information. I was contacted by 14 plumbers within like 12 hours. And this is a real change because a few years ago, when there were not as many plumbers doing this work, but 14 plumbers reached out to me. And so there's a ton of plumbers have come on board to do this. So you have real choices. Okay, so all that is exciting, but we have even more exciting stuff coming out. This fall, we are going to be launching a program in which we will, if you have a qualifying income at 80% of average median income or lower for San Mateo County, we will electrify your house for free. Yes, we will switch out your gas appliances and we will put in electric at no cost. Yes. And we're actually, this is expanding on a program we had available the last couple of years in which we would provide one free gas appliance. We'd basically switch out the oldest gas appliance and put an electric one at no cost. But then we realized while we're in the home, let's just do the whole thing. And so this is really to counter the argument that it's too expensive, that folks on a limited income can't afford it. We're just saying, okay, we'll do it. And so you don't have to worry about the cost. And so the next time you hear someone, this electrification, it's so expensive, I'm on a limited income, if they qualify for a program, they will have no cost for this transition. Yeah. Now for folks who have an income above that level, we're also offering new programs to make it easy. So the two barriers we hear most often for people to electrifying is either it's too expensive and it's too hard. So we're trying to help people get over those barriers. On the too expensive, if your income's low, no problem, we'll do it, no charge. On the it's too hard, we're offering an easy solution. If you don't want to deal with finding contractors and comparing quotes and all of that, we're launching a program where you can just contact us and we'll send our contractors and we'll take care of your projects and there'll be fair and transparent pricing and you can just go through us. So that's going to be launching as well. There is, and we'll just charge you market rate. Charge for that, but it'll be fair and transparent pricing. But that also includes emergency heat pump water heater, emergency heat water heater replacement. If your water heater dies, we're going to pledge to get you hot water within 48 hours. When I replaced my water heater, we were out for like a month. But good thing we belong to a gym, right? They have a shower. But yeah, a lot of people don't like to be without water. It was a little painful. And so within 48 hours, we'll come replace your water heater. And if you have a particular complex situation, we'll put in a temporary gas water heater. Then we'll come back and do the hot water. I mean the heat pump. And the idea is that a lot of people replace their water heaters just on an emergency basis. They don't like, oh yeah, I heard about this thing that's better for the climate, but I just want my water heater. I just want my hot water. And so we're going to make getting a heat pump the easiest option. And the rebates will be automatically applied to that. We're also launching additional service with an energy advisor. So this is be a free service. We actually just hired a new staff person. She's and she has a master's degree in engineering, building engineering. I think she's, super well qualified, and you can reach out to her, make an appointment, and talk to her about your home and your situation, and get free energy advice for how to do how to do your project. So again, getting over getting over the hard barrier. Talk to us. We'll give you free advice on what to do. So that's coming out soon, and I think she also speaks Spanish. Yeah, so we've got exciting stuff coming out. So if you think this is going to be expensive or hard, rethink it. This is going to be cheaper and easier than you think. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. Hey, everyone. My name is Joseph Chen. One more act that's tough to follow for everyone. So, hey, I want everyone to know that earlier we heard that, like, how is utilities? It's not the sexiest thing. But I do want to say that if you think about it, as a society, as humankind, electricity and utilities is how we became a modern society. It's how we beat back the night. It's why I don't know what a chamber pot is anymore, right? So yes, it's great. Let's ride that excitement, please. Thank you. So we learned about why it's important to electrify. We had a lot of climate change. We have a lot of reasons why it's healthy. Then we learned from Peninsula Clean Energy why there are a lot of resources, how there are a lot of resources in order to actually capture and make this change as easy as possible. So now we're going to get down into some of the dirty details about why you might think, okay, well, I want to do all these things, but I'm a little scared that my electrical panel or that my electricity just won't be able to handle it. And so I'm here to dispel that, because for the vast majority of the people in this room, unless you live in like a 6,000 square foot house, no? Okay. Then no, you probably don't need more than 100 amps to electrify. So who am I? I have, 17 minutes, so I'm just gonna skip this part and just say, trust me, okay? But if you really want to get some free energy audit advice, I highly encourage you to take your phone out, snap a picture of this. I also have some business cards, yay, to go to reduce.hea.com. HEA is called Home Energy Analytics, and it's a program that is in partnership with PG&E. It's for what they call the P4P program, which stands for Pay for Performance. And so what it essentially does is, if you give access to your PG&E data to Home Intel, HEA, then we will take a look at it, analyze all of your usage over the past year and then some, and tell you where is it that you're actually using that energy, and offer suggestions on ways to save energy. And if you save energy and you decrease the amount that you use, that means you pay less on your bills. And then you might be saying, well, why? Home Intel offers this for free. How is it free? Well, P4P, Pay for Performance, PG&E pays Home Intel on the energy you save. So not only do you save energy and pay less, Home Intel gets money, PG&E doesn't actually get to charge as much, so that's a win-win-win. Yay. I'm from San Bruno, we don't like PG&E. So, let me just get a show of hands really quick. Who knows how much their main panel circuit amperage is? 100 amps, 200 amps, something like that. Okay, great. So this is good, because we're gonna do some 101 right here. I'm gonna start from the top, so just chime in whenever you feel like you are feeling like this is where your gap can be filled here. So what's a circuit breaker panel? It's this thing. It's the thing that stands outside of your house. If it's not outside of your house, you're breaking code. Oops. Because the firefighters need to turn it off in the event of an emergency. So the box is where the electricity from the main power line comes on, goes into your house. It's the distribution center, and it goes to all of these circuits, because it would be kind of weird to have all of your energy just come off of one big main circuit. Doesn't make a lot of sense. We want to know where the energy is flowing. After we do that, this circuit has a little device on it, and that device has a circuit breaker, which will then trip if it gets too much current that goes through it. So breakers trip if they receive too much electricity, and the amount of electricity that they measure is amps. And trust me, I have a reason for going through all of this. It's just to answer that question I answered you before. Because by knowing how to look at a circuit breaker and reading, and I know it's kind of hard, but there's this tiny little number here that records and tells you, this one says 15, how many amps it's capable of flowing before it trips and stops working. That's when things go off. You're like, why does it turn on and off and everything? So then you go outside and you flip it back over. So now, who is paying attention? You have a raffle ticket on the line. Who wants to answer the next 3 questions? Go for it. All right, so how many amps can this circuit breaker handle? Oh, okay, here, we're gonna try doing this. Does this work? 20. Okay, only one person gets the raffle ticket, by the way, so if you're helping it anyway, but we're a group effort here. Okay, how about this one?
30.
Okay.
Still 30.
Still 30. Still 30. I'm trying to scroll over to the right here. Oh, there it is. All right, how about this one? 100. 100 is correct, because I cannot tell you the number of times people say, oh, there's a 100, and there's a 100, so logically, by math, this should be 200.
Oh.
No, this is connected. So it's just 100, even though it's written twice. So if you see this on your circuit breaker panel, and you have a 100 that's connected like this, or a 125, or a 150, or a really long one that says 200, that's how you know how much service goes into your house. Okay, so now that we have learned how much your panel has, I encourage you, or how you can read it, I encourage you to go home at some point and just try and find out how much you have. I'm gonna guess that most of you are in the realm of 100. And if you don't have breakers like that, you have little round things, you have fuses, and you should definitely upgrade your electrical panel. Definitely. It's probably only 60 amps. Yes. So right now what I'm showing you is this one report from Home Intel. So this does require you to sign up for Home Intel, but you don't have to. What I'm now going to tell you is, okay, now that we've learned what panel has what amperage, I am now going to say, all right, based on the data, the 50,000 homes that Home Intel has analyzed, so that's a pretty big chunk. There's more homes in that data set than I think Pacifica has homes or people. Yes, thank you. What it's able to do is tell us that over the past year, because we have every moment of every day of your panel data and your electrical meters, we're not going to use it for anything bad, I promise. We see a lot of numbers. 100 amps, great. The max panel capacity, because 240 volts, easy math, 100 times 240, that's 24 kilowatts. For this one home, over the past 12 months, the single instant this home has ever used, the most, is 8.47 kilowatts. That's it. That's almost less than a third. So what this is telling us is that historically, a lot of homes aren't even utilizing 100 amps. In fact, they're using up so much less. If we factor in a 25% buffer, and that's just a buffer for safety, you still have more than half of the panel remaining. And so your next question might be, okay, well, that's fine and dandy. That tells me nothing, because how much do my electrical appliances actually take? We'll get to that in a second. These are just more charts and graphs. This is another one that's just going to hammer home the point, which is we took a look at all the homes. This is a graph of all of those maximum power levels that we just talked about across all. In this case, it's 22,000. This is a slightly old graph, but it's still statistically significant. But the important thing is that 98% of homes have never used more than 88 amps of their entire service. That's people with electric cars, that's people without electric cars, that's people who have fully electrified, that's people who haven't fully electrified. It just means that we have lots and lots of room still. All right, so this is another big chunk of data, but let me just break this down. The big question is, do I need more than 100 amps? The answer is generally no, you don't. But that also means that there's two different kind of pieces at play. I've been talking about 100 amps as electrical capacity, but you also have something called physical capacity, because an electric panel has like 32 slots on it for the really big ones, and sometimes you don't physically have enough breaker slots to put in there. That's okay. We'll talk about 2 ways to try and free out those slots. And so what we have arrived to now is, all right, if we were to take a look at someone's example panel, this is someone who has fully electrified, yet if you add up all of the circuits and you add up all the electrified, here we have heat pump, we have forced air, we have a kitchen range and a heat pump water heater, we even have solar input on this one. And that's still, I know it's so tiny on the screen, but it's 96.6, which is less than 100. Here's some resources on Home Intel as well, that if you'd like to see just approximately how much energy does one of these appliances need. There's a lot of numbers here, but just to really just go through it quickly and boil it down, it'll be fine. Because one other thing is, if you think about, oh man, my heat pump water heater uses up 15 watts or 15 amps or 30 amps if I have it on backup electric power mode, and my stove uses 50 amps if I have all 4 boilers or all 4 burners and my oven on broil, and if I have really, really cranked up the heat, and if I'm also running a load of laundry that's really, really big, and I'm charging my car at the same time, then yes, you're going to exceed 100 amps. But I talk about exceeding amps like it's some really, really bad thing. The solution to that is to walk outside, or put on a jacket because we're in Pacifica, walk outside. Boom, you're done. Just flip the switch back on. And then don't run all those 4 things at the same time again. All right, so this is a pretty long list. Once again, I'll go through it pretty quickly. But ways to free up panel amps. Because what we're trying to strive for here is the fact that, yes, if you change a little bit about your behaviors, because everyone always thinks going electric is going to make your life inconvenienced in some way. It's simply not true. Because the way we live our lives right now, according to the data, means our panels are actually lonely. They're not getting their full utilization out of it. They want to give you 100%, but you're barely taking 30. So, one way you can do that is fully electrify. And when you do that, you can always pick efficient versions of everything. Heat pumps and everything, they're always going to be efficient anyway. And you can try and keep things to the bare minimum that you need to have it, or even bake in a little bit of oversizing. But in general, you don't want to oversize a heat pump for a lot of different reasons. And you can always share devices. For example, when you're running your laundry, your electric dryer, you probably don't need to also be charging your car. So you can have what's called a socket splitter. And that way you only actually use up 30 amps for both. And at night, when your car is ready to charge, when the electricity is cheapest, by the way, then it automatically switches over to charging your car, unless you're doing an emergency load overnight because you need something to wear the next day. That's never happened to me. So we talked about the circuit service space. There's physical space. So you see this is very crowded. And there's a lot of stuff, a lot of wires, a lot of numbers and everything going there. I have a lot of numbers here of lists of things that you can do. What it really boils down to is just get a sub panel. They're not that expensive. And also there's great rebates, $1,000 from Peninsula Clean Energy. And if it's to connect a 200 amp circuit, you get a $600 tax credit, or up to $600 tax credit on that too. I just gotta be wary. I'm not a tax professional. Don't take tax advice from me. There's also the ability to merge breakers together. You see 2 slim ones. Actually, let me do shadows. You see 2 slim ones here, but you see a big one over here. You can always split this one up into 2 more slim ones, just like this one over on the right.
My panel is stuffed with them. Yeah,
Yes, exactly, but it still works, right?
it works great.
It works great. We should put that on a sign. It works great. Perfect. Okay, so that's the part about freeing up panel space. I actually might have a little bit of time for a question or two if anything comes up. I know I do talk very fast. Oh, and I'm so sorry. I owe you this raffle ticket here. I'm just gonna put it here for you. Thank you. All right, I do have one final thing that I would like to chat about. Well, I have a feeling that a lot of people in here have the agency to do this because you may be a homeowner or you have access to be able to make some of these changes. But I also think it's very important to understand and recognize that people who are homeowners is a honestly increasingly less big portion of our population. And so we also have a ton of resources to not quite fully electrify, but still to electrify for people who are renting, whether it's an apartment, whether it's a full home, single-family home, duplex, whatever kind of dwelling that you have. And there are these amazing resources from this site called Rewiring America. I think it's pretty self-explanatory what they want to do. But they have all these different ways that even renters can make big changes. This very fancy-looking grill, I suppose, is called a gradient window heat pump. It's the next generation of heat pumps that can go into your window, just like a window AC unit, but it can also heat your home. And it's also what's called inverter driven, which means that it modulates down when you don't need it, and it modulates up when you do. So it's always going to be efficient because it keeps you at a very consistent temperature rather than going up and down and up and down. Then you have the heat pump water heater, and so a lot of apartment or multifamily buildings have central water systems. And so you can get really large ones, or you can get them in a row, like in a bank. And then finally, this thing here, this is an induction hob. We're actually raffling one of these away in now. And any renter can easily just plug this into their countertop. And depending on how many burners that you use at one time, you can just use that as your sole source of cooking. If you need more than one, grab a second one. They're like $60 on Amazon. And also PG&E has this program where they'll lend you a pretty good one for free for 2 weeks with a pot or a pan that's capable of induction. So feel free to try it out because honestly, if you boil a lot of water or just want to cook a lot, they work fantastically. There's also this big long list, QR codes, we love QR codes in our modern world, of different questions that renters can ask their landlords to try and help with electrification efforts or at least energy efficiency efforts, because when it comes to renters, they probably want to pay, well, when it comes to everyone in the history of the world, they want to pay less for their utilities. So let's think of some ones and let's try and apply some of these, not only to renters, but feel free to take a look at this and apply it for your own lives as you are thinking about making changes. And that's it. That's me.
Can you turn on the lights, please? Thank you. Yeah, thanks. That's great. So this is the end of our formal part of our presentation, but we do have still a program left. We still have half an hour left. So here's what's going to happen. We'll see if anybody has questions, quick Q&A. Then we're going to do a drawing for 2 things. So we get your tickets out, and then we're going to introduce our partner vendors who are here. We've got 3 here, and then we can mingle and learn. So Nancy, you've got the tickets. Questions for any of the 4 speakers that were here tonight at all? Oh, wow. Cynthia.
Could you just talk some about the sort of induction versus gas, like, joy of cooking kind of stuff?
Does anybody here have an induction stove? Would you like to?
Well, I hated my gas stove. First of all, the oven is horrible. I don't know why people love gas. Induction, and it was so hard to clean, I lift up the big grates, and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So I think I got a rebate from Bayland, which I don't hear them here, but there's another organization. It did cost me, the range cost me, I think $1,500, but I get $750 rebate. But I had to upgrade my electrical, which was about $2,000. So, but I love it. It heats so quickly. It heats more faster than my little electric pot for water. It's fast. And I live with somebody who's asthmatic, and he doesn't have any problems anymore.
That's great.
So gas is really bad for you. And if you cook with gas, from what I'm hearing, is you should always have the windows open and keep them open for at least another half an hour after you cook. So I don't understand why it's an easy thing. You can control the heat. It's so much better than gas, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you for sharing. John, do you have anything to add to that?
No, it's great. I'm not a chef, so caveat, I just boil water. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and getting a new induction range and getting my gas stove out was really the most important thing to me in my electrification journey. It's great. It's super easy to clean. It's very precise. As she mentioned, it boils water very fast. It doesn't heat up your kitchen like a gas stove does in the summer. I live on the other side of the hill, so it gets really hot, and adding that extra heat in your home just makes it more uncomfortable. And yeah, my daughter can help me. There's very little chance she's going to burn herself like she would on a gas stove. And yeah, like I said, it's really easy to clean. And there's no toxic fumes that are coming into my home as I cook. So it's great. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah.
And there are famous chefs who swear by induction. Also, Thomas Keller at the French Laundry has a few Michelin stars. He likes induction. Locally, Martin Yan from Yan Can Cook, he likes induction walks, and he does demonstrations on those. So, lots of different types of foods. Famous chefs like induction.
If you have a gas stove, or gas, oven, range top oven, but you don't really use them that much, is still stuff coming out of them, or are they, you're not really
They can be leaky. Yeah, they're not using them.
We have an induction at the end of the evening at the Pacifica Climate Committee table. We have an induction cooktop loaner that you can borrow for 2 or 3 weeks to see how you like cooking on induction. So take advantage of it. Amy.
So I know you can measure carbon monoxide. You were talking about
Nitrogen dioxide.
Measure that somehow.
I believe that you can. I don't know if there's a home measurement for doing that, but I believe that you can. I'm sure that you can. I'm sure that the studies that were done that showed the right.
Well, when they came to do my final inspection at the house, they tested a lot of stuff, and my stove was leaky, and it was not on. So it definitely, I think, is something that's constantly an issue. But it is, I don't know, I have like a psychological, I have to get new pan, like I love cast iron pan, whatever, it's stupid, like.
Let's do one more question and then, because, go ahead.
So sort of about the stove, I guess that's the one I haven't quite figured out. The stove top, I understand induction, but what about for baking?
You could get a range. So you would have the induction cooktop, and then the oven itself would be electric, and it's essentially a convection oven. So it'd be a full range. Yeah. Any question about? I know. So don't forget that we're going to stop in a minute, and you can ask experts around the room what your question. But a question for the general order back here in the pink.
But I have to say, like, with all the power outages during the winter, I was glad that I had my gas furnace. And you thought, would I need to get a battery backup for a heat pump?
I'm glad you asked that question, and I'm going to have Joseph answer that. I have some ideas, but I'm going to have Joseph take that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a really good question because, once again, right, we don't want you to feel like when you're going electric that you're necessarily taking a step back. And you're right, when you have a furnace that's running on gas, you have a source of gas, you set it on fire, and it works. But there's a few things that still may not really apply. For example, a lot of furnaces, unless they're kind of on the older side, like really old side, they have this combustion element, and they have a fan that blows it around. And so sometimes you don't need the fan because it just kind of comes out by gravity. But if you do need the fan to have it blow around, it's not actually going to work during any kind of power outage. So that's not exactly the exact case that you have. So I do want to acknowledge that we're not talking apples to apples, but I am trying to qualify that. Yes, having a heat pump will not necessarily solve that problem. And you could get a battery as far as backups go. But I do want to tacitly understand that, or acknowledge that that is actually, it is a gap. It's true. But in the event that you do have a power outage at home, this is not so much a solution more as it is a cop-out. But we don't have to stay at home.
You can eat a sandwich for dinner. I think Kristen has a comment. And just one other thing from disaster response. In the case of an earthquake where your gas gets turned off, you are not getting your gas back for weeks at best. Whereas if electric comes back intermittently, you'll have that automatically. And that is a big risk for a major event that takes your gas up.
Yeah, I also wanted to say a little more about batteries. Yeah, you can look into getting a solar and backup batteries, and the state is going to be coming out with a program this fall, in which they're basically going to be giving away free solar and backup battery systems for income qualified homeowners in California. So if you're income qualified, then get on it. In fact, Peninsula Clean Energy is looking at pre-qualifying a bunch of folks for that because the money goes really fast. And we're going to try to get some people qualified for that. But also, that's for like the big like Tesla wall batteries that go on the side of their house. There's also like little portable batteries. After the PSPS events in 2019, and then COVID came along, we at Peninsula Clean Energy got really concerned about people with medical devices, especially here on the coast, for whom it wasn't safe necessarily to go to an emergency center because they were medically vulnerable and they shouldn't be around lots of people with COVID and so on. So we actually purchased through Hassett Hardware in Half Moon Bay 150 portable backup batteries and gave them to people who have a medical device, who have medical devices and medical needs and were renters. Mostly along the coast, a lot of folks in Half Moon Bay who are being impacted by that. So this, I'm doing this because you can roll the thing. It's like a heavy suitcase, and you can just buy them at Hassett Hardware, and you can plug in an electric blanket. And so you don't necessarily need to heat your whole house. You can heat you with an electric blanket plugged into a portable backup battery.
Thank you.
I'm going to do things a little bit out of order than what I have on here because I want to. We're going to meet our partner vendors here, and then we're going to do the drawing, and then we'll just open up the room so you can talk to whomever you want. We don't have to be out of here until 9 o'clock, so let's make it a party. These are the three organizations we have here: Alternate HVAC Solutions, Harvest, and Quick Carbon. So I'd like each of these organizations just to come up in 60-second introduction to your organization. So Mike, would you like to come up? And Alternative HVAC Solutions has what we call a mini split here. So the system that Mary Ellen has in her house is a full house ducted system. This is explain it.
Sure. Well, thanks for inviting me. Julie and I have been doing this for, I have 50 years, right? And I used to live up in Skyline, and we were on propane. And in the 90s, my propane bill was well over $900 every 2.5 months. So we would get a wall unit like this upstairs and a wall unit downstairs, and it really helped subsidize my use of propane, right? When I got in the industry in '74, we did a bunch of San Carlos on Industrial Road was all electric. So I was putting in heat pumps in the 70s, right? So it's not new technology. Our company basically is about trying to educate people. I mean, we're not hard sellers. I've got so much business now going on. We're riding a wave. We have been riding a wave. So we've set up a nice room in our shop, and we have the heat pump water heater operating. We have like you have the air handler and the condenser, all kinds of different ways. There's so many different ways to help you satisfy certain rooms that do get cooling or needed heating. And that's what we're kind of all about.
Thank you for
now?
being here. Yeah, so these guys will be over here. So you can talk to Mike later. Brett from Harvest, come on up. Harvest has really interesting technology.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brett. I am the territory manager for the Peninsula with Harvest. We develop a smart controller that makes heat pump technology greener and more energy efficient, and you can actually see it on the table over there. And what I get from everyone is, oh, that's a battery. Yes and no. So what we do with that smart controller is we turn what Margot has, that Sanco heat pump water heater, and we turn that into a thermal battery. So we run the heat pump off peak in terms of time of use rates, and when Peninsula Clean Energy has more renewable resources on the grid. So I'm going to try to pull all these presentations in here together. We also qualify for more rebates as well. So we kind of check all the boxes in terms of lower energy bills, greener technology. It's a more comfortable solution as well. And then to Joseph's presentation, it's only a 15 amp upgrade total for your panel. So you don't need a panel upgrade, and you can get heating, hot water out of one system, one heat pump and one tank. Also talking about some resiliency, when the power goes out, you have that thermal energy available to you, so you don't have to worry about running out of heating or hot water during those times. So it sounds interesting. Let's talk. It's a really cool technology. It's kind of the future of where the HVAC industry is going. So we're happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Cooper from Quit Carbon.
Thank you, Margot. Hi, everybody. We're Quit Carbon. We would like to be your travel agent for your journey off of fossil fuels. Probably many of you remember travel agents. You sit down with them. They've got a lot of expertise in their head. They know how to look up all the great hotels and figure out the connections. They book you a great journey, and they charge you nothing. They get paid by others. We get paid by others. Our service is free. We're a concierge that helps you understand and navigate the process of moving your home off of fossil fuels. We know about all the rebates, and we figure out which ones are right for you. We know about all the equipment, and we help you understand what's best for your home. We're friends with HEA. They refer folks to us all the time. We love Harvest. We help you decide if it's a good choice for your home. And we help you figure out the timing. Sometimes you want to go quick. Sometimes you might want to wait for one of these new rebates that's coming. We'll help you decide if that's good for you. So we'd love to be your helping hand on your journey off of fossil fuels. Come and sign up before you go. Thanks.
Thanks very much. All right, let's have some fun. Joseph, come on up. We are going to do 2 drawings. Yeah, we're going to do 2 drawings. One is for